Hello, my name is Wealthy 711. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm not your healer. I used to be a tarot reader and I am no longer a reader. I am a follower of Jesus Christ and I am now a strategy coach. So today I want to work through and I want to talk about and I want to strategize through what you didn't have as a child and how it sometimes can lead to an idol that controls you unless you're able to take notice of that and heal that wound. So let's get right on into it because you're not going to understand by me explaining briefly what I'm talking about here. Okay, because it's kind of a complex subject that has came to my mind. Okay, and let me go to my notes. Okay, so step one, we're going to identify your childhood wound. What did you want your childhood to be like growing up, and did you have that? All right, so for those of you that didn't have that, let's start there. So for me, growing up was very unorthodox. I did not have your average childhood. It was strange, weird to say the least. So growing up, I didn't know what I was doing, but it just naturally happened for me. And I don't know if the rest of you guys, if anybody will be able to relate to this, but this is for the person that would be able to relate to it. I fantasized a lot. I daydreamed a lot about having kind of like this Disney sitcom like life or something, like a family life. I cannot think of like an example of, well, I could think of one, but it would be very, very corny. So I'm not going to tell you guys. I'm going to keep that to myself. But I had a Disney sitcom life that I wanted and that I didn't have, that I would fantasize about having. Okay. And I guess this could have a lot to do with the trauma and stuff like that I endured growing up. So anyways, I spent a lot of time daydreaming and fantasizing, I guess, as an escape about this life, all right? And it became a childhood fantasy of mine. What I didn't have growing up became my fantasy. I didn't have that white picket fence, suburban type of a lifestyle. I didn't have that. I had just something that was very unusual, something that was very different growing up. So it became a very big wound for me that I really wanted to feel for myself, okay? So growing up, I started to realize as a child that I wasn't going to have it. I realized that I wasn't going to have it. And I started to fantasize about what I could control. So I started to think about what I would give myself when I got older, when I was old enough to create a life for myself. What would my life look like? So now I had a new fantasy. I went from fantasizing about what I wanted my present moment to be like, what I wanted my life to be like as a child, to getting into the preteen years and fantasizing about what my life would be like when I was finally an adult and able to give myself the life that I always wanted. All right, so let's pause right there. Have any of you guys ever had like a childhood fantasy? Did you ever knowingly, because some of us can have these fantasies and not indulge in them as deeply as I did. I'm very aware type person, but did you ever knowingly have this big fantasy of what you wanted as a kid that you didn't have, and this idea that you would give it to yourself when you got older? All right, that's a question that I would like for you to think about, answer to yourself. Now we have to pivot, okay, due to me making permanent decisions and not thinking about fully the person that I'm making those permanent decisions with, and when you're that young, that you don't want the same thing. So you're not attracted to the same things that you're attracted to as an adult. So okay. I have to pivot because so now pivoting from that. Okay, so now let's get into, did you make that fantasy come true for yourself? The fantasy that you had for yourself, from when you got older, what your life was going to be like, did you make that come true for yourself? I'll go first and answer. I did not make my fantasy come true for myself, okay? It didn't happen. I put in a lot of work to try to make this fantasy happen for myself, but it didn't happen for me. And I guess we can go ahead and indulge and get into that. So I'll start with, I'm sorry, I took notes in my phone, y'all, okay? I'm trying to be a little bit more poised. But I started with what I wanted at 19 and 20 years old when I finally became that adult is way different than what I wanted when I became like 25, 30 now. It's way different. And I made a lot of permanent decisions because I was in such a hurry to make this fantasy come true. I made a lot of permanent decisions at 19, 20, 21, okay, that has affected my fantasy coming true because a lot of the things that I thought that I wanted at, 19 and 20 is not the same as what I wanted at 25, 30 years old. So I've always wanted a family. I've always wanted children and stuff like that. But the person that I had kids with, that is the person that I was attracted to as a 19, 20-year-old young lady. Okay. So as I grew older, that attraction was not there anymore. So now what in turn does that do? The fantasy that I had as far as like this Disney sitcom and that I was going to give myself when I got older, it involves a 2-parent household. Okay. And with me no longer being with the person that I had children with, it's already a thing off my fantasy. That's already a thing that is let go of when it comes to my fantasy being 100% fulfilled. All right. So, and that came from, making permanent decisions at a young age. Okay. And there's no regrets there because I love my kids, but it was like I still was going to find a way to make my fantasy come true. So even if it wasn't going to be with their biological parent, I would find a step parent, right? And I didn't even mind being a step parent to, somebody else's kids, but I was going to be a step parent or I was going to find a step parent for them. Okay, so now let's get into the next phase. So now pivoting from me no longer wanting this ideal family with the person that I had my children with, the biological father, to me looking and my type changing, what I'm attracted to changing, and me wanting to build my Disney sitcom type of a lifestyle with somebody else that I was attracted to, right? And with me doing that and with this person that I was like super attracted to and who I had a strong connection with, it was a lot of different things that I tolerated. And it was a lot of it had to do with time, how long I knew the person, and like mainly like this idea that I made up in my head of what we could be versus the reality of what we really were. Okay. And where this person, like what they really made me feel, how they really made me feel. I was thinking about what the possibilities of what the two of us could have. And I was looking at their potential and like on paper, how great they were versus the qualities that are very important that this person was missing, okay? And it was missing a lot of them, okay? A lot of them like faithfulness, loyalty, being able to be truly committed. I feel like this person had a lot of mommy issues and stuff like that. So it was a lot. And I was being very understanding and patient because I seen qualities in this person and attributes in this person that I really admired and I really liked and I really felt like would make a good example at that time for my children, right? I felt like we would be like picture perfect in some sort of a way. And this is just me falling And like loving that person, I did, but me falling in love with the fantasy that I built up of this person and like the life that me and this person could have. Okay. And it led to me accepting things that I probably shouldn't have accepted as a young lady, right? Just this on and off type of a situationship. And I was so steadfast on that fantasy because now I have a face, right? I have a face with the father figure in my Disney sitcom. I have a face with it. So it's like I had became so steadfast on that fantasy with this person that I really just started to tolerate a lot of things because it started to become this thing of like, we were meant to be together. We were meant, me and this guy, like we were meant to have like this family dynamic with each other. I felt so understood by him. And I just didn't take into account the important things that he was missing. So I would say that with that person, it was very hard for me to let go of the idea that we are not going to be together. And he's actually not that great. And he actually has a lot of immature, childish things that he needs to work on. And he's actually like detrimental to my mental health. Okay. So then it's like, it came a point in time that what am I willing to sacrifice in order to run after, strive, and have this fantasy? Because at this point, I'm sacrificing a lot. I'm sacrificing sleep. I'm sacrificing peace. I'm sacrificing all these things to try to get closer and closer and closer to a fantasy. And I'm not happy. I'm not happy in the process of trying to make this happen for myself. It's actually becoming a lot of work trying to make this fantasy happen for myself, because you want to know what? The fantasy includes another individual, and they are able to, they have the free will to decide what they want to do. So I can't make this happen without them being a willing participant to also partner up and make it happen as well. All right. So there goes that. I came to that realization and I let that fantasy go. So my question to you is, are you still striving to make a fantasy happen right now, current day, for yourself? And is there suffering that is being like, are you suffering in the process of trying to make a fantasy happen for yourself? So my example of that would be, say for instance, and you think about it for yourself, but say for instance that like, you're married. Say for instance, you're married and this is the person that you have your children with, right? And say for instance, this person, and this is like a really far off example, but I have to give it to you extreme so you can understand and feel me. Say for instance, the person that you're married to is either a serial cheater or like somebody that you're experiencing DV with. Okay. Say for instance, that's a situation, but you're married to this person and you have like all three of your kids or two or one of your kids with this person, and like, you don't want your children to grow up in a home without their mother or without their father. Like, you want them to have a two-parent home, because when you grew up in a single father home or a single mother home, and you don't want your children to experience that. And this is the person that you had kids with, so you feel like you just need to make it work despite the fact that you got bruises on yourself, or despite the fact that this person is cheating on you or, humiliating you in some sort of a way. Despite all of that, it's like, I have to stay so that my fantasy, my childhood wound, you know what I'm saying? What I didn't have, I can give that to my children or live that as an adult. So now, and think to yourself, if you have any, like if any of your childhood wounds are controlling you right now, present day. Like something that you didn't have that you always told yourself that you would have, is that controlling you right now? Another example would be outside of relationships, money. Say, for instance, you grew up in poverty. Say, for instance, you grew up and you may have been the ugly duckling or something. So I can use both examples. Poverty. You grew up without anything. You grew up in poverty. You grew up without the nice shoes. You grew up without the name brand things, the Sean John, the Rockaware, the Baby Fat, all those things, right? You grew up without those things. Okay? What about the G units? You grew up without those things, the Allen Iversons. You grew up without those things. And you was made fun of. You felt left out. So you always promised yourself that when you got older, you would give yourself the luxuries of life. You would live on your high horse. You would have status. You would have notoriety. People would admire you. You told yourself that. So in order to get that, you make a lot of sacrifices. And some of those sacrifices could be doing things that you don't have no business doing, or doing things that sacrifice your freedom, or, trying to make it quick, fast, you know what I'm saying, instead of going the long way of making it, because you don't want to go through the hardships of looking like you don't got it to get to the point to where you got it. Stuff like that. That would be you idolizing, okay? Idolizing status, idolizing a specific lifestyle is what we're doing here. So instead of idolizing that family life, you're idolizing status. Okay. And another example would be like the looks example. I'm just giving you examples so that you could see how it could be many different things. We're not just talking about relationships. So for the looks example, for the ladies or for the guys, whatever, say for instance, you grew up overweight. Or you grew up, like an ugly duckling of some sort. You grew up and people used to make fun of you. People used to talk about your appearance. People used to look over you, or you wasn't the one getting chose and stuff like that. Say you grew up in a situation like that and you always fantasized about, maybe being on stage, or like being famous, being a celebrity, or just being admired, being chosen. And then you become an adult and you now idolize like your appearance. You idolize your looks. You idolize vanity to the point to where it's like, nothing against surgery, but like say you're getting just surgery on top of surgery on top of surgery in order to stay, keep up with the Joneses, or keep up with the beauty standard, or say, you're working out like to an extreme in order to fit some sort of an appearance, or you're doing things in order to be accepted, you know what I'm saying, by the opposite sex, or whatever it is that you're interested in. You're doing things to be accepted. So you have to be chosen. So now it's getting to a point where you're idolizing so much the opinions of others, how they feel about you versus how you feel about yourself. And now it's becoming dangerous, right? This is an example of how a childhood wound can control you if you don't recognize what that wound is and find a way to heal it without striving to achieve in some sort of a way or putting it on a pedestal. So I want to talk about how you could lose yourself in idolizing a fantasy, because it can honestly have you doing things that you thought that you would never do. Okay, just in this, I gotta have it type mode. It could have you doing a lot of different things that you never in a million years would have thought that you would be doing. So let's go back, let's go back to the appearance one. Okay, let's go back to the appearance example that I gave you guys prior. If your fantasy, your childhood fantasy, is to be the it guy or the it girl, and to have the nicest of the nice and the brands and the this and the that because you didn't have that growing up, or to be admired and lusted after because you didn't have that growing up. If that is your fantasy, right? And it gets to a point to where it is controlling your life, right? Because it's so many different things that you're having to do in order to have this admiration or to be seen or to, feel like accepted and wanted, basically is what it boils down to. It could lead to you doing things that are out of character. So one thing that it could lead to you doing that's out of character is, how are we going to get those things? How are we going to get the designer? How are we going to get the body type? How are we going to get the facial structure? How are we going to get the hair? How are we going to get the lip? Like, how are we going to get all those things, right? And it's nothing wrong with it as long as you're not idolizing it. It's nothing wrong with looking nice. It's nothing wrong with having nice things. It's nothing wrong with it. We should all, you know what I'm saying, have those things. I feel like we're all deserving of those things. But it becomes wrong when you go against your moral compass to get it. What are you willing to do for it? What have you done for it if this resonates with you, if this is your story? And based off of that, you'll be able to determine if it has become an idol in your life. Okay? Same thing for the relationships. How much are you willing to tolerate to have this white picket fence? How much are you willing to tolerate to... Because at the end of the day, a lot of the times, sometimes you never satisfy that thirst for it. It's never enough, or you get, like I said, you don't satisfy, you don't get to it, or you do have it and you still feel like something's missing. You're still not happy. You're still not whole. It's honestly never enough. Okay? And that's because you do have to get to the root of it all, which is that childhood wound of feeling unworthy. In the case of the appearance thing, that would be like a spirit of unworthiness. In regards to the family situation that I was talking about for myself, that could be the spirit of abandonment, or something in regards to a spirit of rejection. And all of them really could boil down to rejection. But it's like you have to get to the root cause of the problem and address it instead of idolizing how you can give yourself more. So, what is a childhood wound in your life that has become an idol? I'll wait. All right. What is a childhood wound in your life that has become an idol for you? It could be big or small, right? Now that we have realized your childhood wound, let's get into strategizing. Strategizing through how we can no longer allow this to have control over your life. Okay, so number one would be addressing. Addressing that what you didn't have as a child was never your responsibility to provide for yourself. It was never your responsibility to provide a safe space, to provide a home that had peace in it. It was never your responsibility to provide yourself with feeling accepted, or like with the clothing, clean clothes to wear, with certain things. It was never your responsibility to do your hair, or keep up with your, not maintenance, but keep up with your appearance in a certain way to where you look clean. Or it was never your responsibility to provide those things for yourself. It was never your responsibility to provide yourself a mom, a father. It was never your responsibility to provide yourself with that. Even as a child, even if you were overweight, it was not your responsibility to control that weight. I would say that it has a lot to do with what you're being fed at home. That's not your responsibility. It's on the parent. Okay, so a lot of the things that you went through as a child that has caused some sort of a wound for you, those aren't your responsibilities, and it's not your responsibility to carry throughout your whole life. It's not. Okay. So recognizing and addressing the fact that it wasn't your responsibility. Okay. So number two is acknowledging the fact that your past doesn't define you. And in fact, holding on to your past and trying to make sure that this doesn't happen in your life anymore, it doesn't happen now, is actually allowing your past to define and to control you. Because we're focusing so much on that thorn that's in our side that hasn't gone away. The thorn of feeling unworthy, the thorn of being looked over, the thorn of not having people in your life that love you, the thorn of not feeling accepted, okay? We're allowing that thorn to control us because we're trying to do everything possible in our control, in our power, to not feel that pain again, to not feel the pain of feeling like you don't look good enough, to not feel the pain of being rejected, to not feel the pain of, dealing with not having parents or a peace in your life, or to deal with dealing with embarrassment or humiliation or this and that, to not have that pain anymore. And I don't want to describe those pains perfect, but you know what I'm saying. Whatever your pain is, that's what it's all like revolving around. It's just like it's controlling us because we don't want to feel this pain anymore. We don't want to feel it anymore. And it's like we're doing everything in our power to never feel it again, to the point to where it's controlling our lives. All right. Okay. So number 3, I want you to find balance with what it is that you desire for yourself. Okay. And not allowing it to control you. Finding balance with this desire that you have for yourself, because we don't want to take away the desire of wanting a peaceful home. We don't want to take away the desire of being, kept up, you know what I'm saying, or looking nice for ourselves, or, carrying ourselves. We don't want to take away those desires, or we don't want to take away the desire of having stability for ourselves. We just want to tame that. We want to tame it to where it's not controlling us, to the point to where it's like, in order to have status, you know what I'm saying? I'll hurt, destroy, do this and do that for it. We don't want to do that. Or I'll take and steal from somebody to have status. We don't want to allow it to do that to us. So it's more so just learning to find balance with the desire that you have, and also recognizing if you are out of balance right now, how can you get in balance? What is it that you can sacrifice in your life right now to be able to get into balance with the desire that you have for yourself? Okay. Recognizing that. All right. So number 4, and this might be, for some of you guys, but I would say relying on God to provide for you what it is that you desire, honestly and truly, because this is the thing. This is the thing. And some of you guys might cut off right here and some of you guys may stick around. But this is the thing. Relying on myself, okay, to make my will happen for my life. To make my will happen for my life has created and has caused a lot of great suffering and has created a lot of chaos in my life. Trying to be in control of trying to make things happen for myself and trying to not feel that thorn. Okay, trying to not feel that thorn, trying not to feel, rejected or like the oddball out, or trying to do all these different things to control the narrative. It has created a lot of suffering for me because I don't know it all. Okay, I don't have control over everything. Okay, but versus, and like, listen, this is just a prime example of it. Like if I would have started out allowing God's will, like whatever God's will is to be done, I would have a lot more patience. And a lot of the things that I had done in my past, it probably would have happened a lot later in life. Or I probably would be in a better position to receive the things that I wanted in my life. Okay. So it's like me trying to rush through things and me trying to do things at my own will. It has created a lot of different consequences, I'll say. Consequences, okay? It delayed things. It delayed things from happening for me. So it's like now I have to find another way. I have to go around to get what it is that I want. And not even I have to find, because I'm relying on God for it, okay? I'm taking all that weight up off my back, those burdens up off my back. So now I'm allowing God to find a way to bring those desires of my heart into my life. But once you take that burden off of yourself and you more so get into, it's not my will, it's God's will, it's a lot more peaceful. It's a lot more peaceful on this side. And you really have to have that trust in that knowing that what God wants for you is not bad, and that you can trust his will. Even if it feels a little shaky, even if it feels a little rocky, even if, you're not able to foresee the future and foresee how it turns out, even though you have to let go of control, right? Even though you have to surrender, right, to see his will, right? I'm telling you that it's a way better option, because if you resonate with this video and you've been doing it your way, has your way just been seamless, or has it caused you some sort of a suffering? All right. So that is the 4 steps. Okay. The 4 ways to strategize through letting go of that childhood wound and allowing it to control you. If you're wanting to let go of your childhood wound and making an idol out of what you didn't have as a child, book a one-on-one strategy call with me at wealthy711.com. Also, too, if you have anything else that is going on in your life, any sort of inconveniences that you normally would book a reading for and you no longer get readings anymore, book a strategy call with me at wealthy711.com. I will use my discernment to help you and navigate through whatever the problem is. Talk to you guys later.